President Cyril Ramaphosa has published the names of a team that's set up to help strengthen the fight against corruption in the country. The National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council will be working with government, we're told, to battle fraud and graft. This team is made of experts from various sectors who will serve a 3-year term. For more on this, let's bring in former Asset Forfeiture Unit Head, Willie Hofmeyr, who joins us via our video link this morning. Mr. Hofmeyr, great to see you. Thanks as always for making time to chat to us here on Newzroom Afrika. You know, in the past, the President has faced accusations or criticism for not following through on recommendations that are made by various investigating bodies around what it takes to fight things like corruption in this country. Interesting to watch the reaction, though, yesterday, where other people have questioned whether or not we need yet another advisory council. What's your response to this?
I mean, I do think there is a role for such a council. But I must say, for me, the primary objective now really is to put the right things in place to start combating and preventing corruption a lot more effectively than what we have done in the past.
I guess the presumption there is that those things aren't in place as yet. Perhaps tell us a bit more about what you mean by that, because there's instances where people are pointing, for instance, to the NPA, the SIU, and many other law enforcement bodies, and questions around where the advisory council fits in that ecosystem.
Yes, I must say I'm not quite sure where it sits exactly. But I think part of what we really need to do is to improve on some of the aspects of our anti-corruption capacity. So, for example, one of the big challenges at the moment is for whistleblowers, where the law says that they must report or do their whistleblowing to their boss, basically. I think it's very important that we look at something like an independent body which can deal with whistleblowers. And I must say my own suggestion is that we look at some of the retired constitutional court judges, because I think they're the one institution in the country that really is trusted by everybody. So I think a whistleblowing mechanism that is controlled by retired constitutional court judges, for me, is one of the key things that need to be done to ensure that whistleblowers can come forward and that they can get properly protected.
Yeah. We're told that part of what this council will do is advise the president on how to go about implementing the recommendations of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, which stretch far and wide and include what you've just mentioned around increased protection for whistleblowers. I mean, what would be your approach to a mammoth task like that?
I suppose you have to eat eat it one bite at a time. There's a lot to be done. But I think for me, the protection of whistleblowers is one of the most urgent things that we need to look at. But I also think there are things that we can do better about preventing corruption from happening at all. And, you know, I'm quite a big fan of the system that the Special Investigating Unit uses, where all its staff go regularly through an integrity testing process, through something called voice stress analysis. And basically that can tell you whether the person is telling the truth or not telling the truth. But I do think that we really need to look at new things like that we can use at the national level, because what we've done in the past has not really worked very well.
Yeah. And to be fair, in the past we've gone about, I guess, establishing advisory councils, and I guess that's where the criticism is coming from the skeptics among us. Part of what this council's also meant to represent is this collaboration, this multi-sectoral collaboration in various sectors, of course, of people coming together in order to advocate for an anti-corrupt society. And it's in that space, I guess, that we're also reminded of the very real concerns around South Africa losing its grip on being a capable state. Is a body like this, do you reckon, what we need to strengthen our ability as a capable state?
I think we do need a body like that. But I must say, for me, that urgent thing now is to put the building blocks together to actually combat corruption and prevent corruption. And I hope that it's not going to take a very long time for that to happen, because I think we are facing a bit of an emergency at the moment.
Speaking about time, I'm not sure what the time reference or the terms of reference is for this particular council. In other words, I don't know if they have deadlines or not, but if you were to decide on the kind of powers that the council ought to have, what would those be?
I think some of the key things that I think we need to combat corruption effectively is the idea that I think came up from a ANC proposal, but is to set up an anti-corruption body, an organization that's only purpose is to focus on combating corruption. At the moment, the problem is that function of fighting corruption rests with the police, with IPID, with the NPA, but it's not coherent. Everybody works on its own, and I think what we need is to put all the people fighting corruption in one organization and ensure that, and I think that's the way to ensure that people are focused on fighting corruption, not all the many other things that need to be done to fight crime.
Yeah. There'd also been real worries about accountability mechanisms that exist in this country, even for advisory councils like this one. In your mind, how should accountability unfold in terms of holding these individuals who form part of this council to account for the work that they do or the work that they don't do, quite frankly?
Indeed, and I think that's one of the difficulties. I think one of the concrete accountability things that we do need is at the moment we've got the Independent Police Investigating Directorate that has oversight over the police, but it doesn't have oversight over the NPA and other parts of law enforcement. So I do think that we need a body that has a holistic view and where people are able to go and make complaints like you can make to the Investigating Directorate, but it also has powers to check whether the anti-corruption bodies are doing their work properly. And that's, I think, one of the things that we need is a sort of IPID for corruption investigations as well.
Willie Hofmeyr is the former head of the Asset Forfeiture Unit. Great to speak to you, sir. Thanks very much indeed for your time.